What's going on, everybody? It is that time again. The Sooners Illustrated Podcast, episode 131.
131.
Monday, November 25th, 2024. Josh Callaway, James D. Jackson, Tom Green. Oh, boy. What the heck happened on Saturday? Post-game reaction Monday. Oklahoma bludgeoned Alabama 24-3. The Sooners dominated. It wasn't really even that close on the scoreboard, as the scoreboard would indicate. An all-time program-defining win for Brent Venables, Oklahoma. A lot to talk about, a lot to sift through. Guys, let's just start there, though. I mean, I'm still struggling. You know, I joked about it in the instant reaction. Tom, when we were in Columbia, I struggled to find the words to put into just how much of a mess it was, how much of a disaster everything was. I'm kind of doing the same for the complete opposite for what the win meant over Alabama and how well they played. But just feel free to go whatever direction you guys want to start. Just an unbelievable performance. They completely dominated the game, and an all-time performance, an all-time night that OU fans and this program are going to remember for a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, it was a stunning result, especially just based on the 10 prior games that we saw. Look, Brent Venables put it, aptly after the game. Like, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is the vision. Now, I don't think he thought, throwing 12 passes a game was going to be the recipe for success in the SEC. But this complementary football we talked about, controlling the clock a little bit better. They obviously condensed the game a lot, really ran the ball well on the ground. The defense dominated. They controlled both lines of scrimmage in this game. They ran for 250 plus yards, held Alabama to just 70 yards rushing. Jalen Milroe was a non-factor with his legs, and they like I said, force him to beat you through the air. And they were up for the challenge, picked him off 3 times, and like you said, it was a program-defining win. Do I think it's a season-salvaging win? Maybe not. They're still 6-5. It's still a disappointing year overall.
Sure.
But this is the type of win where you can build off of it. And, it's like a new foundation for what this program can be under Brent Venables. He spoke about that after the game. I caught up with Joe C. along with a couple other reporters briefly after, we got wrapped up with Brent and everything. He's like, yeah, I mean, this is validation. It's what Oklahoma's working toward, like what they think this program can be again and win a championship in the SEC. He described it as, a marathon, and you just got to keep running a stronger and stronger race. And on Saturday night, we saw Oklahoma run the strongest leg of that race so far.
Listen, I'm going to be the optimistic, I guess, here. Like, yes, it's a disappointing record, but for what we've seen that Oklahoma has faced this season with the amount of injuries and the schedule that they played, to get bowl eligible is a really, really good situation for this unit because of, like I said, everything they just gone through this season. I mean, it was so many different things that, they had to overcome. And none of us expected OU to even come out and win this game, let alone do it in the fashion that they did. And so it was just like, I mean, that helped out a lot because Josh was talking about it in the last pod and after the game ended. It's all about the vibes, man. I spoke to a bunch of recruits after this game, and they were like, man, the atmosphere was great. I mean, they won. It was amazing. And a couple of them even got involved in the field storming, which is something they said they've never done before. So that added to the experience of the entire thing. Like, Oklahoma getting this win over Alabama, and I think has a better chance against LSU. I mean, if they do that and create a win streak here at the end of the season, it'll help out a lot because it's like saying, yes, we could have been really, really good this year if, we had all our players healthy. I mean, that would be what they could go in and say in the recruiting aspect and keep those recruits that are kind of wishy-washy at this point in time, taking visits other places right now. So I think it was a really, really good win. And just because of that, not too much else to say about it. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, mentioned it last Monday. Florida was kind of the blueprint. They stood behind Billy Napier, and then they turned around and beat LSU, and it was, wow, look at how different everything feels around that team. They rode that into another win this past weekend. Yeah. And we all talked about it. It was going to take a lot. We didn't give OU no chance. We all said it was going to take a lot. It was going to take far and away their best game by miles to do this. But if they did, how much that could change everything for just the energy and the commitment and just kind of an affirmation of the direction that this is all going and what they're trying to accomplish, what they're trying to do. And they got it. They got it. Everything feels completely different now, which maybe is misguided. We'll find out, obviously, in due time. But for the moment, it all feels like they're going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine, moving forward. They have the right coach. The defense is incredible. Just the quarterback played well. Maybe he is the future. And we'll talk about all this. But it's amazing how one game, one night can kind of change an entire program. And that's the kind of night that was had on Saturday. It was incredible from start to finish. They obviously played at a very high level. The crowd was amazing. It was a dream game in a lot of ways for Oklahoma, the fans, the program, the players, everyone involved. And like I said off the top, going to be one that we remember for a long time and for good reason.
Yeah, I mean, hope and belief are powerful drugs.
They are.
And they are. Brent Venables and that team gave them a lot to believe in and a lot to hope for moving forward because, again, that was the blueprint. Look, I know none of us picked Oklahoma to win, but, Friday afternoon, I dropped on the site what the blueprint that Oklahoma needed to do to have a chance against Alabama. And it was, don't let Jalen Milroe beat you with your feet or with his feet. Check. Lean on the run game. Check. Shorten the game as much as you can. Check. And they did that in convincing fashion. They whipped Alabama up front in that game. And for an SEC newcomer who, comes from a conference where everybody's just throwing the ball around for years and putting up 50, 60 points on the board, to come into the league and beat a fellow blue blood, college football royalty, in the most SEC fashion by just dominating the lines of scrimmage. That is a statement win for Oklahoma under Brent Venables.
What's even crazier is like this team has had they keep saying when we talk to them, like, they had a great practice. We had a great practice. We couldn't get it done on the field, though. We couldn't execute and things like that. It showed in this one that the coaching staff has done, a better job in this game. Like, being prepared like that, taking what Vanderbilt had done to Alabama and knowing that situation and being able to get their guys to kind of execute that same plan as Tom just laid out. It shows that the coaching staff has done a really, really good job in this last week. I mean, they've said they've had these type of practices that they've felt really, really good about the game plan, just haven't been able to execute them. And they were finally able to do it. I mean, after that first quarter where there was a fumble and a drop pass in the end zone and a missed field goal, it all just, like, all their bad luck kind of just stopped there. And then after that, it was like, actually, all right, this is what we're going to execute and we're going to do it really, really well. So that was good to see.
Let's talk about the defense. Phenomenal. So good. Jalen Milroe, 15 carries for 7 yards. Ryan Williams, 9 targets, 2 catches. They didn't score a touchdown. Were shut out in the second, third, and fourth quarter. Just Brent Venables' defense's finest hour. They were absolutely just on point from start to finish, literally from the first snap. When Danny Stutzman stepped in the hole and smacked Jalen Milroe for a 1-yard gain, you knew they got a beat on it here. And they did exactly, like Tom said, what a lot of people felt they needed to do, which was make Jalen Milroe beat you with his arm, and he couldn't do it. Eli Bowen was unbelievable covering Ryan Williams. Another phenomenal game for him. He's a future star. He's a star now, but obviously a rising star. And the seniors on senior night were all great. Billy Bowman, Danny Stutzman, obviously. DeJohn Terry was really good in this game. Trace Ford was really good in this game. Woody Washington got the interception to steal it.
Ethan Downs
was great in this game. Guys, the defense, very similar, I felt like, to what we saw against Tennessee, where they were just dialed in. They were ready. Only in that game, the offense gave them no favors and put them in a tough spot over and over again. This time, the offense didn't do that. It let the defense just go to work, and they were unbelievable. It's really hard to give them enough credit. I don't know if they're hyperbolic enough for what they did in this game. They were helped a little bit on a couple of spots by some drops, obviously the controversial penalty. But at the end of the day, Alabama couldn't do anything. I mean, I feel like, like Tom said, they shortened the game, but it felt like they could have played another 30 minutes and they still weren't going to give up that 21-point lead. Like, the defense was just so locked in, just an incredible effort and unreal performance.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it started with that first snap. Danny Smith, the tone setter. He talked about after the game. It's like, you hear for 2 weeks and really all season, just like how big and how dynamic of a runner and player Jalen Milroe is, and he's a big dude. But Danny was like, look, I'm just going to meet him in the hole, and I'm going to show that he's just a regular guy. Mm-hmm. And for him to do that on the first play and just kind of exude that confidence and let it trickle through the rest of the defense, I mean, it just carried over. Can't say enough about the job that front seven did. Oklahoma sold out against the run in this game. And
yeah, they did.
Did not give Alabama an inch to work with. And they trusted their secondary to make plays when they were, left on an island. Eli Bowen, like you said, was just lights out. I think he only gave up one reception on like 5 targets against Ryan Williams. He was tasked with shadowing him pretty much all night. And he played bigger than his 5'9" frame again. He was incredible. It was just an inspired defensive effort that, again, I feel like I've said this a lot of times this season, but this is what a Brent Venables defense looks like. This is why you brought him to Oklahoma, to resurrect the unit and make it look like this.
Yeah, talking to R. Mason Thomas after the game, he said that they kind of treated the entire, 2 weeks as preparing for like a Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick type of guy, which means there's going to be a lot of, run pass options. And you look at that game, especially when when Alabama got into the red zone after the turnover, Jalen Milroe had a chance to score a touchdown on a read option play, but Oklahoma just read it perfectly. Seemed like it was just like there were 4 guys in his vicinity. One guy got there. I can't remember who it was. One guy was in the backfield with Jalen Milroe, which kind of made him have to squirt outside, and he just couldn't get anywhere. Like those type of plays that Jalen Milroe gets usually ends up in a touchdown, especially from that close to the end zone. And it was like, OU was just really prepared. They prepared themselves really, really well for that type of player because, like we said, you want to take away his legs. So you do that, and the rest of it is just making those big plays on Ryan Williams and Jeremy. I'm thinking of his last name, Jeremy, number 5 for Alabama, and things like that. So yeah, Bernard. So just it was that situation for them. They played really well, and Brent Venables said it. Going into this game, OU's defense had played, defended the most possessions in this season so far. So like shortening the game down, they saw that, made the adjustment. So let's run the ball, let's control the clock, let's shorten the game down and keep our defense as fresh as possible. And it changed a lot. It changed a lot of things in the way they were able to execute things. Like they never looked tired on that field that time around. They never did. They looked pumped, ready to go, and they just executed.
This is what the defense can do, what this defense can be when they're not put in horrible situations constantly and living on the field. Mm-hmm. This Oklahoma offense took care of the ball. They controlled the clock, all that stuff. And look what happened. The defense was just sensational. Jalen Milroe, 11 for 26. That's excellent defensively. And obviously got the 3 interceptions. The Eli Bowen interception to start the second half was so huge. I mean, it was a 1-score game at that point. Yeah. The first half was great. But it was a 1-touchdown game, and Alabama got the ball to start the second half. They had gotten a first down. They kind of seemed like they were moving the ball a little bit to start the second half. They were out around midfield already, and he just read that play all the way. I mean, just a play that a freshman's not supposed to be able to make. I mean, he just recognized so quickly what Alabama was going to do. He blew up the guy who was trying to block him. I think it might have been Bernard. I can't remember. And then he just jumped right in front. I mean, and he made a great catch. I mean, it was just an unbelievable play by a freshman. Kip Lewis did it again. It was Kip 6 part 2. It was almost the same play. Just kind of leaked out. Quarterback never saw him, just like Peyton Thorne in Auburn, and he read it all the way, and then he housed it. I mean, just incredible. And then, like you guys kind of mentioned, but R. Mason Thomas at the end of this game was just, him and Trey Sport both were just destroying the tackles. I mean, they were getting off the edge and getting in Milroe's face. It just every snap, it felt like down the stretch of this game. You can't say enough. It was just so buttoned up and so good in every area. It's really incredible. And, it could still be better too. And it will get better. I mean, they still give us some 3rd and longs and things like that. But man, you couldn't ask for anything more. They held Alabama to 3 points. This offense, which is so dynamic, had a guy who was in the Heisman mix and one of the best receivers in the country, and they just shut him down. It was unbelievable to see.
Yeah, I believe this was R. Mason Thomas's 6th game this season with at least 4 pressures. He's been incredible. He's been what we'd heard he could be these last 2 years. Now he's been healthy and he's been able to be productive. He leads the team with 8 sacks now. He's been great. Kip Lewis, I think he might be the new governor of Alabama at this point.
He owns Alabama.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. It's between him and Diego Pavia on that ticket. But man, like, just speechless. Like, I did not think. Look, I thought Oklahoma's defense would be able to limit Alabama, but to hold them to 3 points, don't give up a touchdown, shut them out for the final 3 quarters. That was a masterclass by Brent Venables and Zach Alley in that group.
And they did it coming off a bye week too. Like, we've seen it like when they come off sluggish, especially in the Brent Venables era, that they come off sluggish in the bye week. And it's like you do that and you do it like you went in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I mean, it's just something that you did not expect going into that game for OU to play that well. And they just got up for it, man. They really just got up for it. They prepared. They were ready to go, and it just showed.
Flipping over to the offense, I mean, there's so much credit to be given out here to a lot of people. It's been a horrible year for the offense. Obviously, everybody knows that. Saturday night, they put that all behind them. You guys can go wherever you want to go to start. Joe John Finley called a great game. The game plan was fantastic going in. They committed to the run. They didn't really throw the ball in this game because they didn't need to. They were running the ball so well, controlling the clock. Arnold only threw 11 passes in this game, completed 9 of them. It was all about the run game. Jackson with his legs, Xavier Robinson, welcome. He was fantastic, over 100 yards. The offensive line, by leaps and bounds, their best game of the year, just opening up running lanes all over the place. And they were just legitimately pounding it down Alabama's throat throughout the entire night. And even after early on, where it was kind of the same old, where they would do some 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, the trick play, Bauer Sharp drops it, they missed a field goal. It was like, even though they're moving the ball, they're still not scoring. Like, it kind of felt like we've seen this movie before. They stayed the course. They stuck to their plan. And it was an unbelievable performance by this offense, which has just taken so much scrutiny all year from us, from everyone. They were fantastic in this game. The rushing attack in particular was just incredible. I don't know how anybody could saw this offensive performance coming, especially on the ground. They just ran the ball at will all night. It was unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jackson Arnold, career high 131 rushing yards. Xavier Robinson gets his first career 100-yard game. He got SEC Freshman of the Week honors.
Well deserved there, yeah.
But it starts with this offensive line. And look, I know that people, us included, have been very critical of this offensive line this season. But this last month, particularly, running the ball, they've come together. They've been effective. That's been the strength of this offense this year. Again, especially this past month, it started with that Ole Miss game where they had nearly 200 yards, sack adjusted, rushing against a very stout Ole Miss defense. Obviously, 381 against Maine. Even in that Missouri loss, they ran the ball pretty effectively, especially down the stretch there with Xavier Robinson. And then to just line it up and, have really no secrets about what you're going to do when you're lining it up against Alabama and just take it to them for 4 quarters was really impressive. Febechi Wiwu, another guy who was honored by the SEC today, really good from him. It was a little bit confusing. I don't know what happened with him, but he came out for about 12 snaps and they put Eddie Pierre-Louis in there, and there was like no drop off. They were still moving the ball well. Brent Venables joked after the game that raggedy old Spencer Brown got in there, just got in some guys' ways. The left side, Logan Howland and Heath Ozida, a pair of redshirt freshmen, just continue to make strides down the stretch here this season. I think that's probably the most promising thing about this team.
Those 2 guys, they're making an argument as being the left side into 2025.
Yeah.
Those guys have been great.
Yeah, I think the emergence of those guys and the fact that you get Troy Everett for another year. I think Febechi Wiwu has another year. It's like maybe this offensive line situation isn't as dire as it looked, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. It's like I still think Oklahoma needs to make smart investments and get a elite player or 2 in the line if they can. But I think that there's a quicker fix if these guys continue on their developmental track, which is why they're so high on Bill Bedenbaugh and why he's been doing what he's been doing for so long is because he's been able to develop these guys. It's just Oklahoma, kind of had itself in an inopportune situation where it didn't have that experience coming into the season with guys because, we've discussed it at length about, missing on some guys in recruiting and just, not signing as many guys for a couple cycles, but the young talent is there and it's starting to come to the surface.
Yeah. Shout out to Joe John, man. Like the drive to score before the half was so crucial and he put it together greatly. I mean, it was just perfectly executed. And on the touchdown play, I went back and looked at it. We're talking about the offensive line. OU pulled like the right guard and the right tackle on that run and they ran it to the right side. Like that's the creativity that we have not seen this year. That was something special. And for Robinson to break outside and make that play happen, it was really, really cool to see going back and looking at it. But as I said in the post game podcast, it was Jackson Arnold made great decisions all night long. I mean, we look at his run total and his passing totals, and there were a few more passing plays called that he just decided, okay, that's not open, but I have like 8 or 10 yards ahead of me right now. Let me just tuck it and run it. Like it was just working, perfectly because I guess Alabama just really respected Arnold's arm in this one. It seemed like they didn't have a spy or anything like that to go against his running attack, and they did that. And then when he would pull, it's like Xavier Robinson, he sells the fake, man. Like there were some times where Tom and I were up there, we were like, man, I thought Xavier actually had the ball. It was Arnold that had it on the outside. Like he did a really, really good job of that. And so he just had so much gravity, Xavier Robinson, after what he had done, earlier in the game, that it just helped out a lot. So all around, it was just great from that offensive side. There were many different things that just clicked. They just executed a lot of different things, man. It was great.
Yeah, it felt like, and maybe the numbers don't bear it out, but it felt like you saw more misdirection and just general creativity with the run game. In the first Xavier Robinson run that he sprung was just a kind of a simple counter play, but it got everyone moving one way, and it was just executed perfectly. And that happened throughout the night. And give, Jackson Arnold a lot of credit for that. Making those decisions on the read option, who kind of were pretty critical of those decision making, those quick reads. In the Missouri game a couple weeks ago, much, much better in this game. I'll talk more about Jackson in just a second, but I want to say real quick, shout out Xavier Robinson. I mean, just unbelievable. The season this guy's had, scout team, gonna redshirt the year. That was the whole plan. He just gives them a little bit of a spark against Maine. They throw him out there against Missouri, and he helped them come back, have a chance to win that. And then they decide, okay, we're going to burn his red shirt. And we talked about on the show, if you're going to burn it, use them. Don't burn it and give him 3 carries where he can't even get going. He was the featured back in this game, especially after Taylor Tatum fumbled. And he was just awesome. I mean, 18 carries for 108 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he caught 4 passes. It's an unbelievable story that this true freshman, who we saw last year, just right on the road at Carl Albert, just mashed people. And he's still doing it in the SEC now against Alabama. It's just unbelievable. And you can't help but wonder, is this a little bit, who knows how things all work out, but is this a little bit of a product of Oklahoma and this staff putting an emphasis on recruiting in-state guys? Would the previous regime have gotten an Xavier Robinson? Who knows, right? And this is what happens sometimes when you do that. You get diamonds in the rough. And Xavier Robinson, who was just a 3-star prospect, not some incredibly highly touted guy, he more than looks the part right now. So
underrated though. Like I saw, he should have been hired. Like I got a chance to watch him for 2.5 years before that. So yeah, he should have been higher than that when we were seeing.
And his final 2, we were there. It was Oklahoma and Iowa State, right?
Yeah, exactly. Those were his final 2. So
it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. What about Jackson Arnold though, guys? Obviously 2 weeks ago was a nightmare for Jackson in Missouri. Didn't play well. The fumbles were just just horrific. Didn't fumble in this game, and he hasn't thrown an interception since he came back, I don't think, since he was reinserting in South Carolina. So he's made smart decisions throwing the ball for the most part. But just hanging on to the ball has been an issue. In this game, despite running it a million times, 25 carries, didn't fumble. I joked about it in the instant reaction. You could see him putting 2 hands and gripping that thing for dear life. I'm not fumbling today, and he didn't. his legs were such a massive X factor in this game. 137 yards, 131 in the net. Obviously, who would have guessed that Jalen Miller will run for 7 yards and Jackson Arnold run for 131 while you play the games. Awesome moment for Jackson. Hard not to just feel happy for him on a human level. Been a hard year for him. Well, I'm sure it was a long 2 weeks after that Missouri game, the way it ended. And he put it all behind him. And we talked to him earlier in the week, and he really seemed to have the right mindset and that his headspace was in a good place. But it's like, how is it going to actually look when they play? And he looked confident and dialed in and ready to go from the start. Give Jackson Arnold all the credit in the world, because no matter what else happens in the future and everything that's happened this year, he was under center for one of the biggest wins in recent program history. And you can never take that away from him. He'll have that forever. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'd be lying if I didn't say that watching him run on Saturday night, there were a few times where I thought he looked like he might fumble it getting taken down, because I mean, Alabama will hit you hard. But credit to him for holding the ball. I don't know if anybody checked his hands for any stickum after the game, but he had a vice grip on that thing, and he did a great job of on one of the biggest stages this season, certainly the biggest stage at home, to kind of vanquish some of those turnover demons that he's had. And I think I saw the stat, like the last two quarterbacks to rush for 130 yards against Alabama are now Jackson Arnold and Jaden Daniels, who won the Heisman,
which is crazy.
That's good. That's good company to be in, even with the season that Jackson Arnold and this team has had. Just credit to him, man. Like it would have been so easy for him to just completely lose his confidence after everything he's been through this year. I don't think anybody would have blamed him. He's still 19 years old, young guy. It's a lot to put on your shoulders, but Brent Venables has said it several times. Jackson said it himself. He's got broad shoulders. That's what they're for, and he showed why.
Mm-hmm. And I think I called it RPO earlier in the podcast, but I think it was more just a read option for Jackson Arnold now. Like they took out the passing option of that running style of play. It was just like, read that defensive end, hand it off, or take it yourself. And I think simplifying it is what Brent Venables has been talking about. Simplifying it actually worked out for him. It worked out for him there. And I want to give a shout out to him on that Brennan Thompson slant route, because looking at the film on that is a very narrow window that he got that into. Like there were, like he threw it directly to the safety, like because he was expecting Brennan Thompson to be there, and he had to do it that way. He had to sidearm it as well, because of the offensive line kind of missed their blocks on that one. It was that one of the few times they did, and he had a defender in his face, and he sidearmed it, and it was right towards the safety, but Brennan Thompson just snatched right out of it. It was like, man, that's a great throw, because you have to trust your guy, you have to trust the reps that you all put in for that to work out as well as it did. And it was awesome to see that. So like, and then when Thompson went down, it's like, all right, let's use the legs some more. Let's get going, because you don't have any receivers that you really can really rely on at that point, like that you expect to make a really good play. And so it was great, man. It was great to see that for him.
He was smart with the football, and obviously, the runs were great. And like Tom said, I think earlier in the year, in particular against Tennessee, you could kind of see it, that his confidence was really shaky, and it affected his decision-making. But whatever he did in the time that he was sat down and Michael Hawkins running the offense, he's been much better at just kind of being unflappable since then. He obviously still made mistakes, but it hasn't been for a lack of kind of that self-belief. And he had that in this game from the very start. You could tell he had a belief that we can move the ball and score points and win. And you have to have that. If you don't have that belief, it's not going to go well for you. So give him a lot of credit. He was really good. Offensively, otherwise, offensive line we talked about was fantastic. I thought the tight ends, Bauer Sharp had the drop on the trick play. I know he's beating himself up about that. JoJo Finley kind of joked about it, that he had to talk him off the ledge a little bit at halftime after the trick play, which would have worked perfectly if he was wide open. It was executed perfectly. Brennan Thompson's throw was a little off target, but still probably should be a ball that Bauer should catch. Had a couple catches later. I thought he had a couple of nice blocks. The long Arnold run that set up the trick play, Bauer Sharp had the block kind of in that hole that sprung that whole thing. So give him a little bit of credit there. Jake Roberts was great out really high. So I thought tight ends were fine. Obviously not a big part of the passing game, but there was no big passing game in this. And this was all about the rushing attack. So heck of a night for the offense. And, Yeah, I mean, Joe John Finley, I'd still be beyond floored if Joe John Finley was your offensive coordinator next season. That's not going to happen. But this is the kind of game that it's going to get him a job somewhere else as an offensive coordinator, I think. I mean, he's done enough these last few weeks. It's been impressive. I mean, since he took over, hadn't really done a whole lot of play calling in his career. He's been good. It's been noticeably better each week since he took over, and with Saturday obviously being the most extreme example. So give Joe John Finley a lot of credit. They've done a nice job since he took over. They really have. Anything else there
on that trick play as well? Yeah, Barrel Sharp just didn't make a great adjustment to where the ball was going to be because the throw was supposed to be on the inside because there's nobody there, and so when the throw came, it was on his outside shoulder. So now he turned around this way, and it just didn't make a good read on it, and that's why he dropped it. It wasn't
like he thought he was closer to the sideline than he was too.
Yeah,
he was kind of trying to toe tap it when you really need to do that.
Yeah, so I mean, like that all played a part, and you would think that maybe that was like Joe John Finley playing a little bit more chess too, because you would think that the roles would be reversed there.
Yeah,
people pass let Barrel Sharp throw it. He's a former quarterback, and Thompson just played receiver there. So maybe he knew that Alabama knew about the personnel and things like that, so that's why it came that way. But yeah, I think that's what I saw on that play.
Yeah, I mean, the one last thing I want to say, Zion Kearney and J.J. Hester were blocking their butts off, knowing full well that Oklahoma wasn't going to target them much at all, or target any receivers really, it seemed. Those guys committed themselves to blocking in the run game, and it paid off. They did really well blocking on the perimeter for them.
The passing plays down the field, there were a few. There was like the Brennan Thompson slant route, and then a couple of them were just like dump offs to Xavier Robinson, and there was some shuffle passes to the tight ends. There weren't any like attacking secondary.
There were 3 total targets to wide receivers. 2 to Brennan Thompson and 1 to Jacob Jordan.
There was 1 pass by Arnold that went more than 20 yards down the field. 1 that was between 10 and 19, and everything else was within 10. And most of that was 5-6 yards downfield at most.
Yeah. Weird, man. Weird.
They decided we're going to play ball control. We're going to run the ball. We're going to avoid turnovers and let our defense try to win us this game. And it worked.
It's just crazy that a team like Alabama can't stop that. Like you clearly saw what was going on. I mean, we even saw it if they were in the first half. We were like, they're just going to run the ball every play. Like that's what it's going to come down to. Like even the shuffle pass, that's still like a run to me. Like the way it's handled. I mean, the stat book it shows up as a pass, but that's like a run because it's like a toss in the backfield pretty much. So it's just like, man, they lined up and just ran in front of them every play.
Had no reason to switch it up. It was working.
Yeah,
stuck with it. So big picture, what's the win mean? Obviously for the short term, they're going bowling. The streak extended. So this week in Baton Rouge will not be the last game of the regular season. It will be the last game of the regular season, not last game of the season. They will get a chance to play a postseason matchup. Nobody knows where they're going. It's clearly just guessing. Tom put a roundup of bowl projections. No one place had the same as another place, I don't think. Bowl.
Yeah, every other
everyone's just guessing.
There were 2 for the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. Another one came out today, so there's 2 for the Birmingham Bowl.
Oh, gosh.
Those seem like the most likely ones. There was like the Frisco Bowl was in there. The Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana was in there.
Pass on that one.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I were to take a guess right now, it would be Birmingham or Tampa. I know there's some people holding out an outside hope for the Vegas Bowl somehow, maybe a matchup with USC. But we'll see. I mean, it'll become a lot clearer this weekend, especially if Oklahoma can get to that 7th win. That
makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you something. If we want to see a win, maybe they need to play in Alabama. I mean, those are the teams that they're beating in the SEC. So
I mean, so you made bowl eligibility. You get the extra practices. You get to extend your streak. It's just optically PR recruiting. That all helps. Missing the bowl game's never good in any circumstance. So in the short term, obviously big deal. And these seniors get to go out with a bowl and all that. That's nice stuff. But big picture, what does it mean? Brent Venables, the program, like I said at the top, I mean, time will tell, how much this game, if we can circle this game, 3 years down the road as being like, that was a big moment there to kind of flip the trajectory of all of this. But it feels like, I mean, for Brent Venables, who, he got that vote of confidence from Joe Castiglione and Joe Harris, this win feels very, very significant for a lot of ways outside of just the literal, get the 6-win mark. I mean, that crowd was so into it. You had a field storm for the first time in Oklahoma in 24 years, a double field storm at that.
They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do it.
They don't know how to do it. It's been a while. So it just kind of felt like a big moment for this program and this team. What does it mean for you guys, if you could try to put into context at all the big picture aspect of it? Because it felt so significant, and like we really were seeing something momentous as it was happening. What about for you guys?
Yeah, just real quick, I want to touch on the field storm thing. Josh, I know you were down there on the field too, but fans were climbing over the wall, like into the back of the end zone area, in that area where you got two minutes left on the clock.
There were more people on the field and the sidelines for this game than any game I've ever at Owen Field. It was just during the game. It was just, I don't know what the deal was for this game. I think whatever the capacity was, we were way over the capacity for the stadium in this game.
Yeah, but they started creeping down at the 2-minute warning, and then the premature running on the field when they took a timeout, 28 seconds left to get Casey Thompson in there.
Yeah, that was something.
But yeah, I mean, it's weird. I've covered, I think, now 10 regular season games where the team I've covered has played Alabama. 3 of those have been Alabama losses, all on the road, obviously, and all 3 times have been a field storming. Every Alabama road loss since 2010 has ended in field storming, which is just absurd. But yeah, big picture. I mean, like I said, I caught up with Joe Castiglione with a couple of other guys on the beat after we got wrapped up, and it's validation that this program is going in the right direction, even through all the troubles that they've had this season. For them to not lose the locker room, for the belief to still be there from within the program. And now I think you're starting to see it a little bit more from outside of it, as evidenced by the celebration on Owen Field with tens of thousands of people encircling Brent Venables while he's doing his post-game interview with Holly Rowe down there. I mean, it was crazy. Brent talked about it post-game. It's like, all season, this team has been able to punch first at times. They've been able to punch back when they've gotten hit, but this is the first time that they punched last. And I think that's, again, a statement win for this program, and something that can be a building block of like, hey, like, yes, all the talk this season has been about, oh, Texas was the one that was SEC ready. Like, they're probably still going to make the playoff, but don't write off Oklahoma yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, I'm always going to say it because you have to win at this level. It's going to take top recruits to get to that point. And winning like this on national television in front of where everybody's watching, the primetime spotlight, winning that way, it's just a lot of recruits were like, okay, yeah, it really was just the injuries that were, faulting Oklahoma throughout this season. It showed them there that this Oklahoma coaching staff can make adjustments. They can game plan, and they can get their guys to execute, in the big moments. And they did that. And so that's the biggest thing, like getting those recruits and reassuring them, reassuring all the guys in your class, we're so close to signing day here, that they can do this. It helped out a lot, I think, in the grand scheme of things. Because I talked to a couple of guys, and they were really impressed with what Oklahoma did. So that's the biggest thing for me going forward. Like, Josh, you said it, the vibes, man. It's all about the vibes in this. That's what it is right now.
Yeah, and I just want to add on, like, I think, like, what Saturday showed is that, like, this defense that Brent Venables has built is good enough to make Oklahoma competitive in just about any game that it plays. And he is one really good offensive coordinator hire away from having this thing rolling.
Exactly.
And I think he understands the gravity of the hire. I know it's been written about at length. It's been talked about at length. Like, he needs to nail this hire. It is the most consequential hire that he will make as a head coach. And if he nails it, Oklahoma could turn this thing around real quick.
Agree completely. It's funny how one game can kind of change the way everything kind of looks. Even looking back, you're kind of thinking like, all right, I mean, the Missouri game, they had that. They probably should have won that. You think back to, the Tennessee. First half to put together against Ole Miss, if they had been able to run the ball, take care of it like they did in this game, maybe have a chance to win that one. It's like Tennessee, the defense was amazing in that one, but those turnovers early, it's like you can kind of start to look back and look at the pieces of maybe they're not that far away from really being a legitimate contender in the SEC. Maybe that's not crazy to say. So it was something, though, and just good for Brent Venables, man. Been a tough year for him, obviously, off the field. That one felt good, and he had his family there, and that was cool. It's a cool scene, and that I never thought I'd see a field storm at Owen Field. So that was something that was different. And it's kind of that field really, I never really thought about it before because, again, I never thought I'd see it. It's really like the perfect field to storm because the wall is so low and there's gates every 10 yards, it feels like. So it flooded in there pretty quick. I joked about it on Saturday night. It was like the crowd was 84,000. I felt like all 84,000 were on the field. There was nowhere to go down there. It was mayhem.
Where were you at in the storming? That's what I want to know because you're on the sideline already.
Hiding.
Did you get hit?
I've been down on the field for enough of these now to kind of have a little bit of a game plan.
Okay.
Just kind of stick to the side and let them go around you. Don't try to move because that's when chaos ensues. But yeah, I kind of was in the corner of the end zone. I kind of used one of the big ESPN cameras that drives up and down. I kind of used it as like a shield, basically. And I just let everyone run by me.
That's
been down there for a lot of these.
Yeah, I was down there in the back of the end zone the last 5-6 minutes of the game, and I'm still filling out some things for my instant analysis. And at the 2-minute warning, when I see people start creeping on, I'm like, okay, let me put my laptop in my backpack for now.
Yes.
I will update the final stats and post this after everybody floods past me. But got my camera out and got a little video of people just storming by me. I mean, like I said, this is the third time that I've been on the field for something like that at the end of the game. It was a little bit more chaotic. The two I covered at Auburn, certainly the first one in 2017. And in 2019, I was a little bit more savvy and managed to get to the tunnel before students just, piled out of there like lemmings. But yeah, it's always fun to see those. Good for the fans. And I know there's a lot of them that are like, oh, Oklahoma should be better than this. And if Oklahoma wasn't having the season it was having, they would not storm the field after that win.
Yeah.
But after everything that this team has been through this season, I don't blame them. Let that out. It's cathartic.
Yeah.
I mean, there were people asking to donate on our board. Well, how can I donate to the $200,000 fine that they got? It was it's worth it, man. It was worth it.
Brett Venables said, don't take that in my pocket. No, thanks. No, it was really cool. And like Tom said, it's not something that's going to happen. It's been 24 years since they did it. So it's not like it's a common thing. Probably another 24 years before it happens again. It was the perfect storm of the frustrations of this season, big underdog. Alabama comes in. Because I think even any top 10 team, I don't know if necessarily would have warranted it, but the fact that it was Alabama, another blue blood, it was really cool. And yeah, normally, I mean, the last 40 years, I mean, OU's had a lot of these, and they've mainly because OU loses on the road and then teams storm against them. So get to return the favor and get to do it for once is pretty cool. But
it was funny after the game talking to R. Mason Thomas. He was like, "Oh, where did they take the goalposts?" And we're like, "Oh no, they brought them down." Didn't let them. He's like, "Oh man, it would have been cool if they could take it over to the duck pond because obviously." When Kansas tore it down last year, when Oklahoma State, it wound up in a body of water on campus somewhere. And I think it was John Hoover told them that in 2000 when they had the storming, there were police there just macing people that were trying to tear down the goalposts. And Armesa was like, don't want that. You got to get milk and put it in your eyes. And
I don't know how they would even get the goalposts out of Memorial Stadium. You'd have to. I don't know. I don't even know how you get it out. They've done it before, but I don't know how.
I mean, you'd have to go through that tunnel that we come in.
Physically, it's like it'd be too wide.
I don't think it's too wide though. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Not a problem that they had to worry about.
Shout out to where was J-Dub and Tony Romo? Those guys. I mean, they had to have left early. Tony Romo put an Oklahoma hat on during the game. By the way,
the boys with DeMarco Murray. They go way back.
Yeah, well, I saw him walking out of the kind of back halls there with DeMarco as we were coming in for the post-game press conference. So he was out of the fray.
There you go.
Last court storm at the Lloyd Noble Center, also Alabama. A couple years ago when Bama, I think was number 1, number 2, it doesn't matter. But so Alabama comes to Norman, good things happen, apparently. I think that's it. All-time game, all-time memory. We'll everyone who was there and every OU fan watched at home will remember that one for a while. It was kind of like Jump Around Part 2 in a lot of ways. It was just one of those nights. Sometimes it just happens at college football. It all works for you, and that's how it was. They needed that big-time night for Oklahoma. back on the road this week with LSU. So we'll have all week to talk about it. We'll have the game preview on Friday. Back on the podcast on Thursday. Colin Kenny comes in here to talk some recruiting stuff. Going to have a lot of reaction coming out of that Bama game and get ready for the regular season to wind down. Signing day is a week from this Wednesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're close. So some final adjustments there with Colin on Thursday. James will on that show as well. Usual schedule. Even with Thanksgiving, nothing changes as far as player interviews tonight, Monday, Brent Venables press conference tomorrow, Tuesday, and we'll catch up with you later in the week. That recruiting show, now that I say that, will probably be on Wednesday with the holiday on Thursday. Game preview, that will still be Friday morning, so keep an eye out for that. That's it. Appreciate everyone tuning in as always. Subscribe to Sooners Illustrated, Oklahoma247sports.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, podcast feed, wherever you take in the show. We'll see you back on Wednesday. For Tom Green, James D. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway, signing off for now on the Sooners Illustrated podcast.
See you.